here is the registration form that we will build together. In this registration form, we have field name, state, street, city, and zip code, and then we have either a female or male. So let me input data into this. Let me just put name like Aisha, state, let me write somewhere, and then street, let me write 8th street, city, I will just put somewhere, and then this zip code 1 2 3 4 5 6, you will put whatever you like, female, then registered. After successful registration, we have submitted successful here, and then if you go to users table and refresh, we have Aisha. Okay, this is the what we will build. I already put these data as Aliyu and Hassan, and here is the one that we just put. So let's go and build these together, and we will look at the next tutorial that we will look at after this to inform you is that we will look at how to use form validation on credit card and also on email and password form validation. You will subscribe this channel to wait for this tutorial. In this tutorial, you will learn how to build Spring Web MVC application for registration, where we will display the user's information on Thymeleaf on table. So you will learn how to build Spring Web application using Spring Boot. You will learn how to set MySQL properties in Spring Boot. You will learn how to develop end-to-end registration application, how to build registration application with MySQL database. We will use Spring Dev Tool in this tutorial. You will learn how to use Spring Dev Tool, and then you will also learn how to use Thymeleaf attribute to display users data. So registration with Spring Boot, MySQL database, Thymeleaf, and Hibernate. Here is our registration form, and then upon successful registration, here is the channel where it will follow. So we have browser as the second channel, then user controller, user repository, then to MySQL database. Here is the application architecture. We will build the front end, which include Thymeleaf, and then we will also build the back end, which include user controller and then user repository. Then we will have configuration for MySQL database. So this is the application architecture. Now let's create a new project for our application, and then here we will create in the Spring Starter project. Click next. It connects us to the Start Spring IO, and here we already have the name of the project as user registration, and we also have group as user registration, same thing as artifact. Description, we use user registration application, and here we have coding techniques at package. We are using Maven and Java 11 here in this project. So if you have all these things ready, you will click next. So here we will choose our dependency, and the Spring Boot version is 3.13. so let me add the Spring Web, and then add Thymeleaf. We need Spring Data JPA, which is a bridge between our application and database, and we also need Spring Boot Dev Tool. With Spring Boot Dev Tool, we don't need to be rerunning the application, because it will just run some part of the application if we have saved the project, so we will able to see what we work on. So here we need MySQL driver as MySQL dependency in Spring Boot. So these are the 5 dependency that we need for this project. If you finish adding the dependency, just click finish. So now it getting started. Here is our project. So now our project is importing. So I will stop the recording so that the project finish importing, and then we will look at how in the next we will look at how to configure MySQL database in Spring Boot. Here is our project, and here is the package coding techniques, and here is the user registration, which is the starter class. Then let's go next and see how we will configure, how we will set the properties for MySQL. So now let's configure MySQL properties. Let's set the properties are here in the application.properties. Let's go to application.properties. We will have the code here. So I already have these codes in the text. Let me copy and paste it here. You will write this code. So here is the code, and then we are dealing with the database user. We will create this database. So let's check in our workbench. Here is the workbench. Here is the previous database that I create, but let me delete this one, drop schema. So here I deleted this database, and let me create new one. So we will create user. So apply, finish. So you need MySQL workbench for this. So here is our new database, but we have no table so far, which we will create by creating a entity. So let's go back to our project and explain this step by step. Here I have Spring Data Source URL. These properties specify the JDBC URL to connect to MySQL database, and I also have Spring Data Source username, which is set to root. This is the password. The root is the username and both the password. These properties specify the password for the database connection, and the other property specify the username for the database connection. And we have Spring JPA Hibernate DLL auto, which is set to update. This property configure the behavior of Hibernate automatic table strategy. So we have a login level, which is Hibernate. SQL, we set it to debug. So this property set the login level for the Hibernate SQL, and then we also have the login level org.hibernate.type, which we set to trace. This property set the login level for the Hibernate type information to trace, which provide more detailed login information about the type used in SQL queries. So this is our application dot properties for MySQL database, the properties for MySQL database. And the next thing, we will create a model class with a field. Then we will run our application and check the database to see if we have our tables. Now we will create a model class for our user. Let's create a new package for the model. Package dot model. Next, here is our empty package. Let's create a class inside this package. So the class by the name user. So here is our class user. The first thing that we will do, we will annotate this class with @entity, so that it will be entity class for database. So now we will create a field inside this. We need private long, id, which is our primary key in the database, but we will annotate it with @id. So @id, and then we also need @generated value, @generated value. Let's set the strategy to auto strategy, which is generation type dot auto. So let's add the other field for this. The first field, we need a private name, private string name. So we also need private string street. So we also need private string city. So we done is the city. We also need private string state. So we also need private string zip code, and then we also need the last one, private string gender. So these are the fields that we need here. So the next thing we do is to create getters and setters for these fields. So let's create getter and setter by going to source. Here in the source, we go to generate getters and setters. By clicking, we have here, let's select all, then generate. So here is our getters and setters generated. So this is all we need here. Let me add public, a constructor public user, just a default constructor like this. Okay, now I finish with this entity class. So the next thing, we will look at the backend implementation for our registration, which includes repository and controller. So now we will start implementing backend for the registration, which include repository and controller. But before then, let's run this application and check the database to see if we have table with the following field. So let's run the application, or we will go to the user starter class and then run as Spring Boot app. So the application is starting. Let me erase this. So this is the login for the application info. So when the application started, we will check the, so now the application started here at the port 8080, which is the default port. Now let's check the workbench and see. So previously we have no table. Let's refresh this. You see we have table, and let's check here we have user table, and let's click here and see the table. You see we have ID, city, gender, name, state, street, zip code, and which is set to all null because we have not added any value to this field. So our application is working up to this point. Now let's go and create a repository. So for now we will need another package repository. Let's create a package dot repositories. In this package, let's create a interface user repository, and this interface, it is okay. We have it now. Let's annotate this with a repository and then extend a JPA repository. By extending JPA repository, we will inherit 18 method for performing JPA operation or database operation. So let's have here, so this is supposed to be user, our entity. We will pass the entity here, user, from the model, and then we need a long. So this is the implementation. We don't need any methods so here. So by extending this, we will be able to, you see how our dev tool works. Even small changes, if we save it, we will have it run. So the small changes. Next thing, let's create a controller. We don't need method here because this will extend the save method that we need. By extending this, we will have a save method at this user repository. You will see this in a second. Now let's create a controller class, new package controller. So in this controller, let's create a class user controller. So by having this class, you see we have our dev tool working. So let's annotate this with add controller, and then let's add some two methods here for the registration phase. We need add get mapping with the following path: registration, and then here we need the method public string get registration page, or get, let me leave it as a get reg page, simple. So and then this will return the page, return. So let's name the page as register. We'll have this page, we will create this HTML with this name. So we also need add post mapping, and then we will add the same URL as this, the path. So we need public string, let save user, let name it save user, because it is a post mapping we will use to save user. So now let's return the same thing as the other method. So this is our registration page so far, and we need a model attribute here. So we will pass user to this model attribute user, and we will map it to this user like this. This is the user that we have. So this is our model attribute so far, and let's also pass this model attribute to this method. Okay, so let me read this. So this is what we have so far, and we need this user repository that we have to save the user. add this post mapping. Let's have auto white here. Then we need user repository. So user repository. So let me show you something. When we use this user repository variable and try to access, you see here are the method that we have inherited by extending the JPA repository for performing JPA operation, database operation. So now in this case we will use save. Okay, here we will save the user. So this is the controller, and then we also need a model interface. So we will access this we will use for the view model.add attribute. So the attribute will be message, the message that we will use to display the successful if our registration is successful. So now let's pass the message, the submitted successful. So this is our controller so far for the registration. The next thing that we will do is to have this page, this HTML page, and then create the HTML. Now for the front end implementation, we will create this page register in this template. Here in the template, let's right click and then go to new order. Here we have HTML file, so let's create the file as the same as the name that we return in the controller register. So here is what we have. So we will not going to create all this code. We will have ChatGPT create it for us, then so that we will have we will make the work easier. So let's see what we have here. Here I have generate me HTML CSS registration page with this color. Maybe you will have different as mine, but if you follow how I edit it and make it as what we need, so you will be able to follow up. So here is the color. If you need color, I created with this color. So here are the colors that you can create with. You can create with different color here, and here is the code. You can copy the code and write it as a question. So here is the colors. Then let's go back to our I said that generate me HTML CSS registration page with this color. So now let's copy the code and paste it in our HTML. Then let's edit the code together. So by clicking copy, I copy this code. Then let's go back to our okay. So let's save this, and then let's check here localhost at this part registration. We already have it in the controller. So you see, this is what we have. We will edit it step by step, and then to look like what we want. So let's go back to this. First, we don't need this here. We need this at the static folder. We need this CSS at the static folder. Inside the static folder, now let me create a folder let me create a folder called CSS, new folder CSS. So here is the folder, and inside this folder let me create CSS file with the name styles. So styles.css. okay, and we will copy this code here. Now register, let me copy the CSS. These are the CSS, so up to now. So let's copy the CSS and then paste it here. Okay, now we will use the link element to link our CSS. Let's use link. So okay, here is the link. So here we will pass rel equal to style sheet, and then we need href, which is Thymeleaf href, and then here we will pass the path to our CSS. So we need at, then our folder CSS, and then we also need style, which is the name of the CSS file, styles.css. So now we don't need to rerun the application because we are using Spring DevTool. So let's go and refresh the page and check. So okay, now it's working. You see here we have this input field nearly passed, so we have to set this to inside, and then this username email supposed to be here. So let's check it step by step. Then here in the CSS folder, let's see where we have the definition for the label. Here we have the definition for the label, and we will set this to align text left. Okay, this is supposed to be text align to left. So let's check if so we have it here. This is normal, and then let's go and check for the input. First we will check the width of the container. The width of the container here is 300, and let's check the width of the, and here we have the width of this input is 100%. So let me set this to 290 pixel and see what we have. Let's refresh. You see we have it a little, it is not inside, so this is okay. And let me just reduce it to 285, and let me check the, so this is okay. And the next thing we will do is to have our field. So let's go to register. Then first of all we need a name. We need the field name, and then here is supposed to be name. So name, we need a placeholder name, so we need a placeholder here. Then the placeholder which is enter your name. Enter your name. So let me expand the screen. So, and we have this email. So we will change this to match the fields that we have here. The next thing after name we have street, city. Let's go and add street and city. So we need here street. This is supposed to be street as well. Street. This is supposed to be text. Then we will continue street as well as here street, and then we will copy this placeholder and just change it to street. Enter your street. So, and the next thing we have is city. The same thing we will do for the city. So here is we have city. Okay, city, and this is supposed to be text, not password. The type is text, and this will be city as well. So let me copy the city and have it here. So city, and the placeholder will be enter your city. So placeholder is enter your city. So let's check and see what we have so far. So we have this change with a placeholder, enter your name, enter your street, enter your city. Now the next thing we will duplicate and have all the field that we have. So now let me duplicate this. We need let's check how many fields we have. 6. So here in the register I will duplicate we already have 3. We need another 3. So I think this is okay. So we will change this city to, before then let me check what we have. We have state. So here we need state. The type will remain as text, and then state, I will change this to state as well as here we need state. So this is what we have, and then we also change this to zip code. So let's change it to zip code, and then this will change to zip code as well. Zip code. So let's duplicate this here. Zip code. We will remove the city zip code. This will be enter your zip code. So the next thing that we have here is the gender. Okay, but this gender will be female and male. So what we need here, we will need to duplicate this for the male and female, because this gender will be 2. Let's start with male, and then the other one is female. So this is what we have so far, and then we will change it to gender, and this type will be checkbox. we will change this to checkbox. Check box. We will change the type to checkbox. The same with this one, type as checkbox. So but it will remain with gender here, as well as let's change this gender. We don't need placeholder for the checkbox, so we don't need placeholder for the checkbox. Let me remove this one as well. So here we have city. We will remove it to gender. We will change this to gender, and this will also change to gender. So we also have another city here, gender. So this is what we have, and then let's check what we have so far. So let me refresh this. You see what we have. It look ugly, so let's edit it step by step to look better. And the CSS, here we have input group. This input have margin top to 5 pixel. We will reduce this, and the margin bottom to up to 10. This is too much. Then let's make it just 5, and then let's check if so it is better now. And then let's check there is a padding as well. You see this padding up to 10. Let me just reduce it to 3 and see what we have. So to 3 is 2. Let me change it to 5. So it's better now, but up till now let's check out. We don't need this margin at all. Let me remove this. Let's set it to 0 instead of removing, and check what we have. So here we have this a little better, and let's check where we also have. So let's check where we also have this input group also have margin bottom to up to 20 pixel. So let's reduce it to 10. So that's why we have too much margin. Oh, this is what we need. And in this case, this checkbox is far from it, so it apply the input group. So let's change the class. The class for the checkbox here is our checkbox, so I will just change the name of the class. We don't want it to apply this input group property, CSS property. So by saving this, let's check. So this is better. So this is our registration page, and then the next thing we will do, we need th value here, because if we have either male or female, we need to submit it to the database. So here we need th value equal to, here will be female for female, and then the other one will be male. So once it is clicked, the checkbox, if it is clicked male, we have this male submitted to the database. and if it is female we will have this submit to database. So this is what we have so far, and the next thing that we need a property to submit this data here in the form. You see we have our form started here. We need this. Okay, so let's see what we can add here. We need a method. This method will be post. This is okay for the method post at th action, and we will set it to our registration part that we have here in the user controller. Let me copy the registration part. So, but here we need some modification. We will modify this, and then this will be inside this curly bracket. Okay, this is what we have at th action, and then we need a th object. But before adding the th object, let me add this role equal to form, and then we also need a th object. So then equal to, this is not object like this. So, and then we need this add $, then user, which is we are having this user here, the same thing as our model attribute. We are passing our model attribute user that we have here. So, and in this case we will populate this user variable with what we have here. We will populate it with this name, street. How we can do this is that we will use the th field to receive this data. Th field equal to, so th field will be equal to name, but in putting this name we will have it resemble this thing, this name of the variable, so that it can collect it. So and star, then star. So this will be name. What we will do is we will copy and paste these dots and changing the th field name, and this will be street. You see we have this will be street. So we also need for the city, so this one is supposed to be here. So street, city, and then we also need it here, state, and we also need it here, which is zip code. But in this case it will map how we write zip code here. You see how we write zip code here. Let me just copy it and have it here. Okay, and then the last one is gender, and we will have it both in the female and male. So this is what we're supposed to copy. Gender, we will have gender here. So we need gender as well here. Let me delete this gender. Okay, we have this so far. The only thing that remaining is that we need a div for showing the registration successful. But before then, let's try to submit something with this. Let's go back to refresh the page. So here we have name. Let me add my name, Aliyu. Street, let me write like 8 street. City somewhere, let me write somewhere. State also somewhere, and then you will write anything you like, and then 1 2 3 4 5 add zip code, where we will input zip code, then mail. So let me register this name. So it's showing me please check box this if you want to proceed. Here is where we have this problem. So this required, this does not supposed to be required in here, because we have 2 checkboxes. So by saving this, I think we will save this successfully. We have to rerun it. Then let me enter again, Aliyu Street somewhere, city somewhere as well, state, let me write somewhere street. Let me just change it so that street, and then 1 2 3 4 5. So let's take mail and then submit. So let's check the database and see if our implementation, first you refresh the database and then click this. So we have our implementation working correctly. Somewhere mail Aliyu, somewhere at street 1 2 3 4 5. So the next thing, which is also the last thing, we need to add successful message. They will say that it will show successful. So first, the message supposed to be here, and it is a div. Okay, so this th, we need th if. It will not show anything unless we have successful if message is not equal to null. So it will not show this unless in this case. Let's go back to our controller. Remember, we defined this. Okay, so now let's check. Let's go back to our call. Here in the user controller, we have submitted successful, this one. And if you want to call this, what we need to do is go back to here and add something like this. This attribute will call it for us. Okay, then hash, then curly bracket, then we write message. So this is what we're supposed to have here. And let me have a class to style this message. So by the name message, in the style.css to have this, let me write dot message, which is our class that I just add, and then let me adjust this background color, and the color of the text, let me set it to white. Okay, I think this, so far we finished with the implementation. but let's check if it is working correctly, and then let's check. Sorry, supposed to be here. So let me tick female in this case and change it to like Aisha. So let me resubmit this. Okay, register. So we have this message submitted successfully. So our implementation is okay. And the last thing we will do, let's check the database and check if we have this. We have this with female Aisha. So we finished the implementation of the front end for our application. The next thing is that how we can display the user on table. So this is what we're going to do next. So now to display users, now we have to create a controller here in our controller class, which will handle the users request. So let's have add get mapping with a part of, let's add the part of users. So let's have a method that will execute public string. Let's name the method users page like this, and then this method will return a page user, return page user. So, and we will have a model in this class, model. So we will use this, but before then let's create a list of users. So list of users, and we will find the users from the database using our user repository dot, we will use this method dot find all. So by using this method, it will fetch all the users in our database. So we will have to store this in the model as a model object. Here I pass a list of users, and I will use the model name user to iterate over the list of users so that we will have it in a table. So this is what we have so far, and I have to create the page user in our template. Create a HTML file which is our front end for users to display users. HTML file of type user. The file name is user, and here let me add users. So I will create a table here. So in this table I will have two rows. So let me duplicate these to have two rows. The first one is for table head and the second one is for table data. So here I will have th, which is table head. So, and I will duplicate this like 5 times so that we will have 6. Okay, yeah, we have 6. So, and in the table data we still need 6 td. So, and let's duplicate this like 6 again. So we have 6. So we will put this name according to our field here in a class users name street city. Let's go back to these users. We need name street city. So let's check again. We have name street city, state, zip code, state, zip code, and then we will go back. The last one is gender, so let's add gender. But before we run the program, let's add a style in this head. Style. So this table will have a border. Table will have a border. Of 1px solid black. So as well as this th and td. So now let's check these at the part. Let's check the user controller. We will check it at this part. So let's check what we have so far. Okay, here is our implementation. Let's check what we have so far. Users. Okay, we are having error accessing this part. Let's check it again. Here in the user controller. Okay, we have to save this, that's why. So let's go back to the browser and access. So this is what we have so far. First we need to set the width to 100% to fill this, and then have the border collapsing. So here in the users, we need a border collapse here. Border collapse. To collapse. And then we also need a width of 100%. So let's check this again. So this is better. So now let's add the other implementation. So and we need a font size to 20 pixel. Font size to 20 pixel. To 20 pixel. So let's check it again. So the font is better now. So we need to add the background color to this th. Now let's define th alone and add th. So the background color is the same thing as what we have for the message, and the color of the text will be white. So let's add these to users. This is the background color and it is white. The color of the text will be white. Let's refresh. So this is what we have. It is better now. So now the next thing we will do is to start having our implementation, but before then we need a padding within this. So in the table, in this table we need a padding of 5 pixels. So let's check again. Okay, now it is better. So now the next thing, we will have to iterate through the list of users in the database th each. Then we will use these users. We will iterate over this user in our model. If you remember, here in the model we have these users, so we are iterating over the list of users that we have here, th users in our list. So, and we will use this th text to display what we have for each field. So now we will use this attribute and have users dot name. First we will display the name, and let's check the order. Let's duplicate this in order. So we will change the name here to street, and this we will also change this to city. Here we have state, zip code, so, and then we have gender as well here, gender. So this is what we have, and let's check our database. We already have this. So if our implementation is working correctly, it will fetch this name, so in our users. So now let's check. Okay, you see here we have users and it display what we already have. So before adding another user, let's have some padding here so that it will not be close to this line. So let's add padding, but this will apply to only table data, which is td, and it is a left padding, left padding of 5 pixels is enough. This will be supposed to be padding left, so let's save this and check here. So now we will have space between this. So now our implementation is better. So the next thing is to add another user to see if it is working correctly. Now this, I will change this to like a name like Aisha, and let me untick this and have this as female. Let me change this to like 1111. So if I register this and refresh, So we have Aisha 8 Street somewhere. Let's add another user, Hassan, and then 2222. Let me untick this. So, and if I refresh, I also have something like this. So this is the end of this tutorial, and to enjoy more of our videos, you subscribe our channel. We are preparing so many videos on this Spring Boot and many framework. Thank you for watching.